as far as section 3 here and our priorities and our calls, we have to be relentless about our time management. I mean, relentless to an absurd level. So recruiters, number one, we have MFOs and MPCs, right? So my first company, when I first joined, I started with a company called Parallel Partners, great firm, great owners there. And we would have every week an MFO and MPC meeting, right? The MFO meeting is your most fillable orders. So we're only working on the jobs that have the highest percentage chance of filling, ranked by the percentage, and the MPC meeting, which is our most placeable candidates, all right? And MFO, MPC, these are common terms amongst every recruiting firm you work with. They will know those acronyms, all right? Any of the seasoned recruiters will anyway. So most fillable orders, what makes a most fillable order? So we get into a lot of different criteria of what makes an MFO, all right? Here are some of the criteria that make an MFO a most fillable job. And in like Speed Up My Job Search, for example, I've got a whole list of questions that if you fill them out, it will calculate the percentage for you so you can rank your jobs that you're pursuing against one another. And the reason for it is not to find the, the purple squirrel of jobs, the elusive 100% perfect match for me. It's to figure out which jobs have the highest likelihood of filling, right? So if I go after that one job, that's a real long shot. They're probably not going to fill that. If I spend all my time on that and not on these other jobs that have a high percentage chance of filling, well, I'm not going to fill anything, right? And as a job seeker, same idea. And as my clients, this also helps them to know where their positions rank on my priority list, because I'll share that. I'll let them know, hey, listen, this is where you rank amongst the other jobs in realistic fillability, if that's a word. All right. So, I need to make sure that the job is, number one, it's an approved job. It's not something that you're hoping to fill at some point. This is approved. And I know that you're a client that will honor our agreement. I've got a history with you. I have a signed agreement with you. It's a replacement job, not a newly created job. All right, replacement meaning someone was in the job before, but now we need to replace that person because they've been promoted or they've left for some reason. There is a pain associated with that job being open. The longer it's open, the greater the pain. All right, there's a consequence to it being open and unfilled. That's important. The type of position that it is, if it's a retained or an engaged position, meaning they've paid me up front before I even started working on the position, that's top priority for me, right? That's getting my exclusive attention. And exclusive is another thing. Maybe I don't have an engaged agreement with them where they've paid me a fee up front. They just said, hey, you're the only recruiter I'm working with on this role. That means I'm going to fill the job. So that's very high probability there. If I don't have one of those three, then I'm looking to see how many other vendors are working on it. How many other recruiters, I guess is another way of saying that. Recruiters are looked at as vendors to these employers. How many other vendors are you using? If you're only using two, well, that means I got a 50% chance, outside of not 50%, really 40% is how that would be calculated, because there's always that 10%, who knows, they're going to fill it with an internal candidate, or they're going to decide to pull the rec, or, a pandemic breaks out, or whatever, that happens. But if you got three vendors, well, now it's not 40%. Now we're down to like 23.5%. And if you've got 15 vendors, well, now I've got a 5% chance of filling that job. Guess where that job goes on my priority list, right? So if I got a list of 30 jobs I'm going to try to fill, which one am I going to look at first, right? And then do they have internal candidates in the mix, right? If they're looking at internal people, I'm going to be a little cautious. Why would they want to pay a recruiter a fee? Maybe they're just kicking the tires to make sure that their internal person is good, right? And that happens. And then I'm going to look at, is it within my niche, reasonable set of skills that they're looking for. They're not looking for a web developer who also, fixes cars, and that the salary is commensurate with the skills that they have. And then, do I have feedback from those employers? I am going to look at the fee percentage. Yes, recruiters will negotiate fees, but that goes right into my equation of which jobs I work on first. If I'm looking for a director of software development and I've got somebody paying my full fee, somebody's agreed to pay our regular standard fee, which is something that's going to be a priority for us. Or if they want a discounted rate and they negotiate it down with us, okay, that's great. But if I've got a really rock star director and I got two positions, one of them is at a discounted rate, one of them's at a full rate, where am I sending my rock star? Right? Obviously, I'm sending them to the company who's willing to pay the fee that we're going to earn by giving them that person. Number of interviews in the process. If it's a 15 interview process, likelihood of filling that job are a lot less because the candidate could get snatched away. Number of days it takes to fill the job, number of calls I need to make to get the employer to call me back. Every call I have to make to you is one less call I can make to another candidate to help you fill your job. Other little factors, candidate feedback, response time, the accuracy of the job description, those sorts of things. And if you are an employer, how do you judge the recruiters that you're working with, right? Well, take a look at their numbers, things that you can track, right? How many resumes have they sent you compared to the number of phone interviews that you set up, right? How many phone interviews turned into in-person interviews? How many of your in-person interviews turned into offers, and how many of your offers turned into hires? Those are metrics you need to keep track of and compare, because that's going to filter out the lower quality recruiters that are out there. Plus, I would urge you to measure the candidate experience. Right, one of the my favorite clients who I worked with for a long time she was director of recruiting over at Ultra for a long time, and she went on to be a senior recruiter at McDonald's and one of the biggest name organizations around here. And I know she's improved all of their recruiting departments by being with them. She would always ask the candidates how they were treated by the recruiting firm that sent them. Boom. Tell me about your experience with the recruiting firm. And that's how she would factor in which recruiting firms she worked with, because she needed to know that she was being represented well in the marketplace. So if you're a hiring firm in a hiring position, I recommend you do that. And that's going to get you a higher quality of recruiting firms on your vendor list. Do we keep you updated with information? What's their level with interviewing expertise? I go into my clients and I coach them. I offer coaching services to where I teach them, hey, that's an illegal question. I know it's fun to find out what they're doing on the weekends, but what if they came back and said, well, I like to spend my weekend at the mosque or with my church group, or all these things that are illegal for you to know about and ask about and talk about in an interview. Oh, I didn't know that, right? You need a recruiting firm that's going to help you with those sorts of things.